Okay, for those of you watching the YouTube or watching this live, we're just going to start with a 5-minute meditation. Okay. Well, for those of you who are watching the live broadcast, I just want to apologize. I had forgotten to start the start broadcast button right at 8, so you missed my opening song, but, but that's okay. So, yeah, I sent out an email to I think all of you who are watching and or who are here with me in the room, um, just sharing that this will be the last Unwind Your Mind group that I'll be facilitating. Yeah, I've really been enjoying it this past several weeks and working with several of you who have been interested in starting your own Unwind Your Mind groups in your local areas, or even the idea of starting your own online groups. It just feels like this book that came out recently from David Hoffmeister it's just so rich. I mean, I feel like the material in it can really, if someone really applies it, it can just take someone so rapidly through many, many, many layers of the ego. And I think for that reason, there'll be a lot of resistance to the book as well. Of course, the ego doesn't want to be undone, and I know when I was first reading this material myself, I would have moments where I just thought that what David was saying was so radical and so deep. I would usually chuckle because it was so radical, but it definitely doesn't leave any room for compromise or making exceptions. This book really just goes at the ego in through every possible way you can, all the different angles, and it really just exposes all the defense mechanisms that our egos perpetuate, or I could say the ego perpetuates, because there's really just one. But after these several weeks of facilitating these groups, I've just recently, in the past week or so, been feeling guided to step back, and I didn't know what that meant. Originally, I kind of was afraid that it was just some kind of lethargy coming over me, and that it was just the ego's resistance to doing this. But after joining with some mighty companions of mine, it just started becoming clear that it was really just time to step back. And I'm going to be replaced by a dear friend of mine who's here in the room with me named Andy. And maybe you want to just unmute your mic for a moment and say hi, Andy.
Hi. Hi, I'm Andy. And it's really a pleasure to join you. And I love you, Eric. And for those of you who missed the song, I mean, it just really did it all. It's got all the metaphysics and the love and everything in it. But I'll play more songs, MP3s probably, after Eric. And I'm just really happy to join you. Looking forward to it. Love Unwind Your Mind, and ready to go.
Yeah, Andy and I have been in this community together and just dear friends for several years. And I just feel really grateful to have someone like Andy with as much dedication to be taking my place as the facilitator of these groups. And he'll also be the go-to person for those of you who have your own groups and are wanting support with any specific issues in your own groups. And what I'm feeling to do is actually just offer more music. I feel like I'm just being called into more of a musical function, and so I'll probably start hosting more online concerts and gatherings with music and focused on the course as well, very deeply. So it's been such a wonderful experience. So I'll turn on my light. It's starting to get a little dark here in Cincinnati. And we normally start off these groups after the meditation with reading of the group intention and the group inspiration and intention and agreement. Just kind of an overview of what the group's about. And I don't know if you have that in front of you, Andy, but I wondered if you might want to read that for tonight.
Yeah. Are you there? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'd be delighted.
Great.
Okay. The inspiration for participating in an Unwind Your Mind group. This is a circle of support for the mind to let go of fear-based thinking and experience the lightness and love of the spirit. And the group intention. The intention for the group is to go deeply into the practical application of A Course in Miracles. David Hoffmeister is a demonstration that through commitment and devotion, awakening happens. Unwind Your Mind is a tool to open the mind to the deep truths found in A Course in Miracles. By joining together and learning to connect with and trust our brothers and sisters and become transparent with our minds, we heal. The power to transcend the ego is magnified when two or more gather in this shared purpose. The Course teaches us that at a certain point in our journey, we will not go home alone, but that mighty companions will be given to help us on our way. This group is a gift from the Holy Spirit to help take us home. And the group agreement. We agree to refrain from teaching our own ideas, but rather to practice staying aligned with what is already being offered in the teachings of Unwind Your Mind, or the movie for that week.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, wow. Perfect.
Yeah. So, yeah, the next part of the meeting is always just an opportunity for anyone to clear their mind. We call these expression sessions in our community, and we also call them altar sessions sometimes, because it's a way of symbolically just putting your thoughts on the altar and just letting them go. We don't really, we never try to fix or analyze the problem or offer advice or suggestions. It's really just for everyone to feel safe enough to just share anything that feels like a block in their mind that they just need to get off their chest. And yeah, it's just kind of a brief opportunity. So if anyone has anything that they want to just get off their mind and put on the altar, then feel free to unmute your microphone, and you can do so right now.
Hi everyone. Well, I've got a lot of stuff, and I really love your what Andy read out. And I've got this urge. I want to share it, but I want you all to fix it, and that's not what this is all about. So I'm first up going to put that on the altar. Okay. What's going through my mind is I've always loved music, since I was a little girl, and I know music touches your heart. I don't know how it does it, but it does touch your heart. And I loved what you sang, Erik. I love the music, and I used to be a musician years ago, and I gave that up to be a professional drug addict. And the miracle was that I prayed to the Holy Spirit. I said, please help me get over my addiction and help me to find God. And I'm so grateful that happened, that occurred. And I noticed that even though from a young age I loved music, the ego took over it somehow. And looking at the beliefs, it was like I could see that a lot of the driving force behind that was that I felt so unworthy and so not good enough that I thought, well, I can become a musician and then I can prove to people and the world that I'm not a loser. that was mainly the driving force. So anyway, I haven't done music for years and years, you know. But lately, I've been just, you know, just really enjoying, you know, picking up the guitar and playing. And I just had surgery on my foot. And so I live by myself, so I can't really go anywhere, and I'm just sort of stuck at home. And even though I do, you know, I've dedicated my life to the truth, to awakening, there's only so much meditation and looking at the darkness that you can do every day, because I'm not quite enlightened yet. So, you know, so I picked up the guitar and I'm playing, and there's songs I really love, and I think, oh, that song's so beautiful, I want to learn that. And I'm practicing, and then you know, the thoughts come in. You shouldn't be practicing, you should be thinking about God. You know, what are you doing? You know, you'll never become enlightened. You can't waste your time practicing. You don't want to be a good guitarist, you don't want to be a good singer, you just want God. And so that sort of stuff set up for me. You know, and also all these other thoughts like, oh, you're too old, you know, don't get interested in music, it'll just take you off your path down into the rabbit hole of illusion. But I love music and I love joy, and I suppose I do get joy out of it, but I feel a little bit worried and guilty that if I get sucked into the world, you know, of doing things, worldly joy, because I realise that joy comes from within, you know. And also I get these thoughts, oh, you're not good enough, you know, you can't play guitar properly, you're going to have to practice for ages, you know, no one's going to like your stuff, all this stuff. So I would like to put that out there, and I bring that out to the light, because, you know, when I think about it, it's a pretty nasty little voice, you know, that says, I don't think God would be saying those things to me, I don't think love would be saying those things to me, but I still tend to latch onto them. So I like to bring that out to the light and realise that I can be joyful doing stuff in the world, and hopefully, you know, just realising that the happiness is not in those doing things, but it's in the truth. So thank you. I'm finished.
Thank you, Linda.
You know, it's this is Andrea, everybody. It's been real interesting because I've been listening to a lot of music lately, and I haven't done that in a long time. And I've been struggling with this thought that I would pick up the guitar and I would play. I used to be a bass player years ago. I've played drums, I've played bass. A lot of the things that Linda just put on the altar goes through my mind. No, I don't have time, I'm going to be distracted. This is not about enlightenment. This is not, you know, when are you going to do this? And so I've been sort of wrestling with this for 2 months. And I said, when I met Erik, I was inspired by his guitar playing. I met him at a retreat, and how wonderfully and passionately he sings. And after, I don't know, somebody introduced me to somebody that was going to go to a girls' camp. And then the thought was like, well, maybe that was the instrument I wanted to play from the very beginning, was the guitar. And I picked up the bass because it had less strings, but I never really wanted to play the bass. I wanted to play the guitar. So I've been kind of wrestling with this for the last 2 months, and it's so interesting how the mind works, you know, the one mind, what comes up. And I want to say that I, too, was a professional drug addict years ago. And my sobriety date will be coming up in October. So, yeah, when I was listening to this woman, Paula Cole, I had this huge shift of oneness. interesting that music has been that thing for me in the last week. I just wanted to share that, and also that the person that I've been caregiving, the roles thing, I've been trying to step back and look at that. And the last couple days, I've been seeing stuff about how if you don't manage diabetes, it can make you, depressed, and it can make you have memory loss, and it can, have all these symptoms that I've been thinking might have been depression, but it might be just poorly managed diabetes. And I told my roommate, I'm not going to do what I did in the past, which was make you or yell at you or force you to eat better and come down with the hammer type attitude. If you do better with your diabetes, that's a good thing, and if you don't, I still have to love you. I says, I know it'll be hard to do, but I have to step away from doing that with you. And I said that about a couple hours ago. So I wanted to just put that on the altar as well, that's a change for me, that I am trying to unwind out of this role. So I wanted to share that.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Yeah. In the spirit of kind of the musical theme that we've touched on here, I also bought a guitar just recently, and I started playing it. I haven't played since college, so a long time ago. But yeah, Erik's music has been an inspiration to me as well. And what I wanted to put on the altar was something that David had been mentioning in this 30-day experience about addiction, was that, it reminded me of something he had said a long time ago, was that the actual addiction that we all share is that we think we're personalities. We actually think that we're persons. And that actually is the source of the dreaming. So here we all are thinking we've got these different issues, and one of the issues that comes up for me was that I have a friend who is dying. She's in a lot of pain, and I know that the Course always talks about how if there is God, there is no pain, and if there's pain, there is no God. So we know which one of those we really believe in, and yet I still have these sensations of sorrow and I guess some sadness for her. So I want to put that out on the altar because I know that it shows to me still hidden beliefs and fears that I have. So yes, I thank you for this opportunity. Thank you. My heart feels very warm right now. Anybody else want to express something? Okay. Okay. Thanks for those of you that expressed, and for everyone for just holding the presence. And yeah, I feel my heart, like I said, it just feels so warm. I love the feeling of us just being so transparent. That's what I think is so powerful about these groups. We seem to just, it's like our hearts are open to each other because we're all opening to the Spirit, and it's like this feeling of dissolving in the light together. Yeah. So I brought my book over here, and starting, I think it was last Sunday when I was guided to start assigning a reading section from the book so that we could have something to just go into in the meeting, something that we could kind of base our discussion from. And for this week, the assignment was to read the second half of chapter 1, which starts with the section called "Who Wrote the Course?" and then goes to the end of chapter 1. And I mean, you could spend a year, on this. It's like there's just a week is just far too short, but there's just so much meat in here we could go into. So I thought I would just start by just asking everyone if there's anything specific in this section that caught your attention, that felt really inspiring, something that you actually used this past week in your own life, something that you may have read something in it and you just went, wow, that changes everything, or I can see things in a new light now. Or if you had any questions come up, maybe you read something and you went, that's just too radical for me right now, or whoa, or you just didn't understand something that he may have been saying. So I'll just pause for a moment and see if anyone has anything specific they want to discuss, and then and then we'll just go from there. Does anyone have any questions or anything from this reading that caught your attention? It's just got so much in here. What was that? Were you trying to speak there, Andrea? No? Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Well, am I on the air? Yeah.
Yeah. You're live.
Yeah, I guess the thing that just continually blows me away is that, I think I'm a person addicted to it, and that I see a world out there, and it's such a powerful illusion that that's reality, what's outside me, and that my thoughts are fleeting and not powerful. And your song was so good about, it's really time to take responsibility, because all the causation is in my mind, and everything that happens is a result of my beliefs and my thoughts, and my thoughts spring from my beliefs, and that I guess that the point of power is in the moment when I think I'm a victim, or I'm at the effect of something in the world, to say, wait a minute, that's just false, that's not the truth, that I must believe that whatever it is, like attack or mistreatment, is possible, and just offer that to the Holy Spirit. Say, that's a false belief. The truth is I'm the Son of God. And yeah, I've done it a couple times today. I mean, like I live here in the Canada Peace House communally, and brothers and sisters, and sure enough, several times a day, something will come up, and I feel some irritation with somebody. I'm talking softly, and I have my headphones on, but they know because we bring it up like an expression session and clear it. And like one of my sisters today said, just openly put out some irritation with me, and I just thought, well, isn't that wonderful? Because it's not true, and she's clear in her mind, and I'm invulnerable to it. I mean, I don't take it personally, so it just feels like a gift of being on the path, and doing just what we're doing, unwinding our minds and being transparent with each other. And by the way, I'm familiar with addiction personally myself, and grateful for that, because if I hadn't hit a bottom, I wouldn't have actually. The sponsor I had in AA was a teacher of the Course in Miracles. How lucky can you be? How guided can you be? So happy and grateful. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing that, Andy. That's so beautiful. Yeah, as you were talking, I was just thinking about my own experience here with Ricky, because I'm here in Cincinnati at the Peace House, and man, Ricky and I, ever since we met, we've just had some really major healings together, where our personalities just seem to be completely opposite in every way. We've referred to it as I think Jesus in the Course calls that complementary ego dynamics, when like Helen Schuckman and Bill Thetford were like very, very opposites. And yeah, I seem to have these relationships in my life where I'm paired up with people who are totally opposite from me, and see the world in a completely different way, see everything in a different way, so that our beliefs will get challenged. It's almost like by desiring enlightenment and desiring truth, we will just call forth those people who will seem to have opposite beliefs than ours, and therefore the conflict can come from the unconscious mind into conscious awareness and be seen. But wow, it is quite intense. We had just this past week had a lot of intensity come up around just little things. It always seems really major, but like we were hiring an air conditioning guy and to come out and put in our air conditioning here, and then we were going to also hire someone to come and fix our upstairs sink, and she thought it needed to be done by the retreat next weekend, and I thought, well, we can wait till after the retreat, and just a little thing like that just became this major battle where we were both just very firm in our positions, that like me being, it's relaxed, we don't need to rush it, and her being, no, we need to get on the ball and make this happen. And yeah, there was a point when I just felt so like, I feel like the energy of attack is so strong coming at me, and like forcing me, like making me do something I don't want to do, and I just start to like cringe inside and have to, I just have to go so surrendered, and it's the temptation is so strong to project it back and to wish that she would change, to think that I would be happy if only she would change her mind. And I was just reading actually in the book something. When I was reviewing this section, David was saying that that's always the ego's strategy. Its strategy will always be some version of, if only something outside of my mind were different, then I could be happy. And of course, this is not the truth. The only way we can truly be happy is to have a shift in perception, and to be willing to just be wrong about everything, like about everything. I mean, we had a guy, actually the guy that came into our house to do the air conditioning. He's a talker, and he's I guess he's been coming to this house, the Peace House, working for David for a few years on different projects, and he's really, really good at air conditioning and heating systems and pretty much everything related to a house. He's just a really honest, hardworking guy. But he's a fundamentalist Christian, and he's very, very devout and very, very like a preacher kind of almost. He started just telling me all about his beliefs and telling me how he believes the rapture is going to happen in May of next year, 2016, and he's just everything and all the reasons why he believes that. He just went on and on and on one day when we were hiring him, and it was beautiful because I actually didn't have any charge to anything he was saying, which in the past they may have, that because I remember I wasn't really raised Christian or Catholic or anything, but I did go through a phase where I was studying religion a lot, and if someone had started talking to me about how you need to believe that Jesus died for your sins, at that point I would have gotten quite angry and said, no, you're full of BS, like you need to open your mind to something beyond the Bible and blah, blah, blah. But now I just see that everything is just perfect the way it is, that everyone's on their own path of awakening on whatever rung of the ladder they need to be on. But it's not even that it's them, it's that it's me. It's just me seeing my own mind, and all the hierarchy of beliefs is just the hierarchy of what I invented, and it can all be seen through the Holy Spirit's eyes as just beautiful and symbolic. And it was just wonderful to listen to him, actually. But I'm just really grateful for this path and how it always is pointing us to really question ourself, and not even the small self, but deeper, like questioning just what is my mind thinking right now? What these thoughts that seem to be in my mind, are they true or not? And if they have anything to do with what we could call dualistic thinking, if they are limited to a particular perspective that someone else may not share, then it must be the ego. And if it's the ego, then it's not to be valued or held on to at all, or else it will just delay the happiness. And why would I want to delay any longer? So it's just such a powerful experience, and I feel that I'm just really grateful. Ricky is going to be here for another week, and we have a retreat coming up next weekend, and there are days when it feels like the healing is so deep between us, and times when it feels actually so intense, like when there is a disagreement or a conflict. There are times when it feels so intense that it actually feels hopeless. Like, just the other day when we were moving through that thing about the guy and about the sink and whether the sink needed to be done by the retreat, it felt like we weren't actually going to be able to get through it for a little while. But I've just learned I can't do anything anymore except just pray to the Spirit, just pray for a miracle, and that a miracle always comes in, and things always get healed in one way or another. So it's quite deep. And I heard someone's microphone go off for a second. Did someone have something? Anyone have anything they were? No.
One thing that what I'm noticing is that as these seeming problems come up, the change in awareness of what seems to be happening from something that seems to be happening outside of me to something that happens to suddenly a shift where I'm seeing that these things that are occurring are actually images of what you said, of images of what's going on in the mind, and the multiple layers being exposed, and then realizing that really there's nothing for me to do except to turn that over to Spirit and say, okay, so what's the message here? I just want the miracle. I want to understand that that nothing is happening outside. There is no outside. That this is a this is a message from the mind that I need to turn over for healing. It's strong. It's been getting stronger.
Yeah. Yeah, it just gets stronger and stronger. This calling, it's like a fire in our heart that just gets kindled. As we just feed that fire with our willingness, it just seems to get bigger and bigger and bigger until it becomes all-consuming. We're just getting pulled into the fire of transformation and healing and love. It's really just love. And it can feel so dark sometimes when we're moving through. I had someone email me recently who was moving through a lot of terror. She used the word terror. She believed she might have gotten pregnant, and it was an unplanned pregnancy, and she wasn't sure. And so there was just all these thoughts and this terror coming up about what the ramifications might be, and turned out it was a false alarm. But for that time when she didn't know, it was, I could just feel the intensity that she was going through. She just reached out and said, "Please pray with me, and if you have anything you can share." But it's a very deep journey, and it does feel like the closer we get to the light, the more we go through this, then the ego seems to get more vicious. It can feel that its end is near, and so it uses every possible means to trick us and trap us and suck us once again into its thought system and make us feel guilty. And like what Linda, you were sharing earlier about hearing the ego just saying, you're not good enough and you're not getting this enlightenment thing fast enough. It's like the ego will just jump on board to the spiritual journey, and it'll use anything. It'll use our spiritual path to say we're not a good enough spiritual student. So fortunately we're getting hip to it, because we're as we practice, we it's to the degree that the ego gets more vicious, we also get more keen, more discerning, more fine-tuned in our mind of being able to see it for what it is. So it is inevitable that we will transcend the ego, and it just seems to be a process of staying vigilant, and just like all those parables in the Bible about watch for like staying up and watching for the thief in the night. There's some parable in the Bible about being staying alert, and we can just practice staying alert for these thoughts when they arise that don't serve our peace and our happiness.
Erik?
Yeah.
I'm glad you said about the parable, the thief in the night. Earlier today I was reading something about Dr. Nash, this guy who was the subject of A Beautiful Mind, the movie that Russell Crowe was in.
Yeah.
And basically they said that he was able to overcome his schizophrenia without any medication, whatever. He just said, I just decided I was going to be rational. And I'm going, wow, if that's not spirit, I don't know what is. But then I read that he was killed, him and his wife was in an accident on Saturday. And I lost it. I was so upset. And I couldn't quite figure out what that was about. But I was more upset about that than I've been in a long time. And I just said, okay, you're upset, just be upset. And then I was kind of like, well, what for? You know, what is this? So it's real good to hear you talk about, you know, how the ego will use any tricks whatsoever to get you kind of off track, just off center, just not believing. It was just a powerful feeling of lost. And I was thinking, well, he's in the mind, he's in the one. Why are you suffering so? You know? So I just wanted to put that out there because you were talking about the thief in the night, you know, and I feel like for me today that really came up. Here's a guy that overcame schizophrenia with no medication, and then him and his wife were kind of, you know, I felt this loss. I still do feel a little lost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's always good to just be very allowing, letting all the thoughts, all the emotions up. And then, yeah, like you did, just starting to kind of trace it inward. I think that one of the things about this book that when the more you read through it, you'll see that there's kind of a pattern to what David does with his students, where whenever they bring any kind of issue to him, where any emotion they're going through, or any kind of problem that's on the screen, we'll say, of the world, either in their personal life or somebody else or the environment or politics or anything, he's always bringing it back to the mind, and it's so helpful to be really clear on the metaphysics. He's always bringing it back to the metaphysics of the Course, and the metaphysics are like they're just a construct. They're just a very, very helpful construct for tracing our thoughts backwards, and coming back first to the realization that what I'm perceiving is an outward picture of an inward condition, and that if this really is a dream, then it can only be a dream that represents what's going on in the unconscious mind, and these symbols of death and life and good and bad, all these opposites that seem to be very, very important. Like, we would never, like most humans on planet Earth wouldn't say, oh, death is nothing and life is nothing. Most people think of life as very precious and death as tragic, or at least a major thing. And I remember in the movie, what is it, Solaris. There's a movie called Solaris, which, if any of you haven't seen Solaris, it's just one of the best movies for awakening. In fact, I've heard David say many times that if you had to pick one movie to take with you on a desert island, bring Solaris, because it can really take you all the way if you really get it. And I've watched it many times. There's a version we have where David's commentary is spliced into the movie throughout it, and just really, really valuable. But at the end of that movie, there's a scene where George Clooney, who's the main character, says to his wife, "Am I alive or am I dead?" And she looks at him with just all the love in her eyes and says, "We don't have to think like that anymore." So, when you really take that in. We don't have to think like that anymore. We don't have to think in terms of, am I alive or am I dead? It's kind of a mind blower. If this is a dream, then we're neither. We're neither alive nor dead. We're not, because it isn't real, because there isn't anything really happening. There's a perception of all these bodies running around, and they seem to be alive, and then they seem to die. But if what the Course is teaching us is true, then it must not be the case that any of this is actually happening. And that's where freedom can, where we can, just kind of surrender into this deep experience that actually what is happening is God or Christ, and that this I am presence that's behind the veil of illusion that is eternal, and this is who we are. This is the one self that we share, but everything else that we perceive in time and space was invented by the ego, and it was invented as a way to make the idea of separation seem real and serious. So we're just remembering to use these metaphysics with everything that we perceive, every issue that comes up. We're opening our mind to being led back to that remembrance, to that, through the layers of belief, to the remembrance of this eternal nature to who we are, that cannot die and cannot even really live in terms of what we normally call life as a body. Neither are true, and there's just such a freedom in that. Yeah, I liked one of the early sections, the first section there in the reading assignment that I gave about who wrote the Course. He starts off, because this is a common question, for people who are new to the Course, like, okay, so I've heard this is Jesus. Is it really Jesus? And he starts off by saying, yes, on a symbolic level, it really is Jesus. But if you take it much, much deeper, then you have to start to question the idea of a book coming from a person, and that ultimately that the only author that there is God, and God didn't author this world or anything of this world, and therefore the Course and everything in it actually has no author. so those are like different levels of awareness. It's helpful to first start off with, okay, this is Jesus who's speaking in this book here, symbolically, and that's a very helpful starting point. Or even if someone isn't ready to accept it's Jesus, just kind of saying, well, this is some like it's spirit speaking through someone, or just Helen Schuckman channeling spirit, or if they don't want to accept it as being a particular person back 2,000 years ago, it's just opening up to that. Really, it is just our mind that seems to produce everything in the dream, but that if this world actually doesn't exist, and if it has no real source, we could say the ego is its source, but the ego itself has no source and doesn't really exist, then nothing in this world has a source to it. And yeah, so these are just some really profound ideas that I feel like to really understand, they can't really be understood intellectually. I feel like we start off with what we could say is an intellectual understanding, but they actually that's like a stepping stone towards just beginning to feel it, to feel the awareness of these truths. And so we use the metaphysics on an intellectual level in order to keep bringing us back to our experience and being willing to feel the emotions that are arising, which are blocking us from that experience. So it's just really beautiful that you bring that up about the feelings of loss, and someone, this man, seemingly dying, and it's just so helpful, just bringing it up and then looking at the thoughts and going, okay, what's really going on here on a very, very deep level.
I think it's very encouraging that the whole concept of the idea and the ideas and the truth of the Course are really the stirrings of truth in the one mind that are surfacing, and that the image, which is the Course, and us studying the Course, is really a manifestation, I guess, of a very strong desire to wake up.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. We've just drawn it. It's like a witness to our desire that we've called into our awareness, as we have called each other into our awareness. All of us who felt drawn to each other in this purpose. It's so powerful because the way the ego set this world up is we start off with all these relationships that we could call like our special relationships that the ego gave us, like our parents and our sisters and brothers and cousins, and then our school people, the people that we meet in school, and our teachers, and maybe our church, and all these things that we kind of start off with. And even amongst those people, there can, for many of us, be one or two people who really reflect the love to us in an unconditional way. But for most people, I would say the majority of those who surround us when we seem to be born into this world are reflecting the ego's thought system. And then as we start to feel this desire kindling in our heart for the truth, we just start to draw forth more and more witnesses, maybe initially through books and finding teachers. For me, I remember feeling really drawn to people like Tony Robbins and James Redfield, who wrote the Celestine Prophecy, and then Eckhart Tolle, and then finally, finding the Course. And it's just all these symbols that I feel just were drawn into my awareness by my desire, and they just seem to get more. They come in so strongly that it starts to. All the old witnesses just start to kind of become more peripheral, like all the old friends and people in my life who I used to be surrounded by that weren't really interested in spiritual awakening, now are just kind of on the outskirts, and I still feel like they're just included in my love, but they're just not like really present anymore, and it just seems to be how it goes for all of us who've really said, this is what I want above everything else. I just want to wake up, and I think it'll just keep growing that way until it's like we're just merging with the light, until we're just calling the full experience of light into our awareness, and just seeing that it is us, that it is what we are. But we have to face everything that we've placed in between ourselves and that light, which is all the attack thoughts, all the grievances, all this. It says in the Course that until you're willing to look upon the full extent of your own self-hatred, you won't be willing to fully accept the atonement for yourself. And so it seems like these relationships, like I was describing earlier, that I have with Ricky, and they bring up the attack thoughts really strongly, and I see them in her and in myself. And when they're up, it's wow, it's quite strong. But I have to just keep being willing to face these thoughts, which just represent my own self-hatred, not Erik's self-hatred, but the ego self, that I believe I've identified with as a substitute for my Christ self. So yeah, every opportunity we can look, it's great.
Erik,
yeah.
I just was wondering what the difference is between Erik's self-hatred and the ego's self-hatred. I thought they were the same thing. I thought they would be the same thing.
Yeah. Well, I guess you could say that they are the same. They're the same thing because Erik is just a manifestation of the ego. You know, we could say that the small self, the personality self, is just, you know, all personality selves were made by the ego, and so the ego hates itself and it hates God, and then the personality selves that it invents are just kind of like holographic representations of it. So we could say that, you know, they are the same, but it's helpful to realize that it's not really a personal thing. It's not like I have to, you know, deal with my self-hatred, and every person has to deal with their own self-hatred. It's more that we're getting in touch with the ego's self-hatred, which isn't there doesn't have to be an ownership with it as on a personal level. It's like an abstract self-hatred, we could say. And yeah, as we just start to see that there's just one ego and there's just one self-hatred that needs to be faced, then we just open up to the fact that beyond that is just the one Christ and the experience beyond that.
Yeah, so because I always like to think about Jesus, you know, even though Jesus, you know, there was really no Jesus. I mean, he was just the Christ, like all of us. But there's a body which is neutral. So I suppose would it depend on if I get in touch, you know, if I am constantly in tune with the Holy Spirit, then the body would just become a, you know, a vehicle to express that, rather than the ego using it and projecting a personality and, you know, an appearance. And, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, I mean, I've had a lot of self-hatred lately. Maybe I'm getting very close to enlightenment because I'm looking on the full extent of my own self-hatred. And but like you said, it's not actually particular to me. The me, you know, the false made up personality identity. It's not really. It's just, you know, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, it can be helpful to take it out of the personal realm at times, especially when it seems like there's a battle between two people. Like when I'm in a feeling of a conflict with Ricky, it can be like, well, you need to look at your self-hatred, or no, you need to look at yours, and, you know, we need to. There needs to be a willingness to look beyond it all, to see it's not really me and you. It's just the one ego that's kind of behind this whole world, and yeah, it can be quite radical to kind of open up to that perspective that it's not people, it's not personal at all.
Thank God for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, because otherwise then the ego could jump in and say, well, look how much self-hatred you still have, you're still going through, and kind of put it on the timeline, like, well, you've worked through a lot of your issues from before, and now you're at this point, but you still got a lot of work to do. And it's not really like that. It isn't really a linear thing where it's not a person waking up. It's an awakening it's impersonal, and it just seems to be like it's happening to a person.
Mm. Mm. Great.
Yeah.
The reason that the ego has its self-hatred is that it feels that it wants to be really have the authority, and it feels insufficient. Would you say that that's more or less a clear description?
Yeah, yeah. The ego is like it's really just a thought, but it's a thought that has seemed to produce this whole cosmos. So it's a very powerful thought, and it's basically the thought that I can be God, that I don't need to just be, an extension of the real God. I can be my own God and be autonomous on my own. And yet in that thought is a feeling of profound separation and a feeling of profound loss and incompletion, because it's an attempt it's an attempt to do the impossible, to split off from what one actually is. And when you attempt to split yourself off from what you are, then that it's impossible. How can you not be what you are? So in this impossible attempt, it's just constantly trying to invent ways of maintaining it, because it has no basis. It's a losing game. It'll never succeed. The ego will never be granted reality by God. Like, okay, ego, I'll let you be real. You've struggled and you've tried to create yourself for eons and eons, and you've tried so hard, and he says in the course how it's such a profound learning feat. To learn this world was a profound learning feat. He says, never doubt your ability to learn, because it's such an amazing feat that you've learned this entire cosmos and forgotten your true home in heaven. So God's not going to suddenly go, okay, you gave it such a strong effort and you learned so well. Even though it feels bad that you are separate from me, I'm going to just give you reality, and we'll just try to live happily on our own. It's a losing game that's never ever going to feel good to be an ego. So it's inevitable that the mind will be drawn back into what it actually is. But as long as it thinks it's the ego, then there's a feeling of incompletion, and basically every thought that's the opposite of love is what the ego is. So self-hatred is just an aspect of that. It just knows that what it is not real and completely wrong, basically. That's when unworthiness, like when people feel unworthy in heaven. And this journey, on this journey of awakening, we have to face, I go through a lot of experiences of feeling unworthy, having this deep feeling of guilt come up, and I just have to keep remembering that it's not really a personal unworthiness. It's not like Erik is unworthy. It's just this deep unconscious guilt that has to arise, that is based on the belief that I'm separate from God. So we have just a few minutes left, and so I'm feeling to close out with final song. Final song for my final Unwind Your Mind study group. And then Andy will take the helm and lead us all on next week. So the song that I felt to play is a song that is called This Disguise. And it's funny, this fits in perfectly with what I've just been talking about, which wasn't planned at all, but it's all about this disguise. This we all, when we seem to come into this world and we seem to project out a personality self to identify with, it's like we're putting on it's like we're walking into a costume party, like a Halloween costume party, and putting on a mask and saying, this is who I am, ha ha ha, and trying to fit in to the party. And I wrote this song because I could see this aspect of my self-concept that wanted to be liked, that wanted to be loved, that wanted to get attention from others, that wanted to be famous, that wanted to basically find substitutes for the love that I unconsciously felt I didn't have anymore. I certainly wasn't aware of that, and I would say it's just dimly been coming into awareness these past years of really going deeper into the mind. But in the song, I just kind of share about this desire for a substitute for God, and then in the chorus of the song, actually this is a song that was shared on the morning 30-day experience this morning. And that was what inspired me. I thought, feels like a good one. I haven't played on my guitar in a while. It feels like that'll be the one I play tonight. And in the chorus, it's all about, but it's not true. It's not true that I'm without you. It's not true. The disguise is not true, and it's not true that I'm actually separate from God, because my heart is in your heart, God, and your heart is in my heart. There's just this oneness behind it. So that's the chorus that it keeps coming back to. I'll put on my studio mode here again. Okay. By the way, I just wanted to ask, Andy, maybe you could answer this. When I played the song earlier, was it too loud by chance? Was it like distorting at all?
Yeah, okay. No, I don't think. I had it playing nice and loud, and then I realized everybody in the house could hear it, so I kind of quiet. But it didn't sound distorted to me.
Okay, I just didn't know if I needed to move my microphone further away, and I know I can tend to be quite loud when I play some of these songs. So.
Well, the louder parts maybe, but what do? You have the softer parts. You're going to move the microphone? I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, I moved my microphone a little bit away, so
okay.
We'll go for it. Just go for it and let it rip. Sometimes I take myself a little bit too seriously. Fall into the trap of thinking that I know what's best for me. I wanna be famous, yes, I wanna be loved by you. And I still believe I know how best to make my wish come true. But now I'm seeing it's not true that I'm without you, 'cause your heart is in my heart and my heart is in your heart, and I feel you moving through me. Though it's not true that I'm without you, 'cause your heart is in my heart and my heart is in your heart. I feel you moving through me. Yes, I feel you moving through. Yes, I feel you moving through me. Yes, I feel you moving through. I've got to let go and be true to who I am. And I've got to trust you and let you lead me by the hand. And I've got to let go of my arrogance and pride, and just let you love me. I don't need this disguise. Cause it's not true that I'm without you. 'Cause your heart is in my heart and my heart is in your heart. I feel you moving through me. No, it's not true that I'm without you. 'Cause your heart is in my heart and my heart is in your heart, and I feel you moving through me. Yes, I feel you moving through. Yes, I feel you moving through me. Yes, I feel you moving through. Yes, I feel you moving through.
Amen.
Yeah, I got on mute because it's kind of like Beethoven conducting the Ninth Symphony and not hearing the applause. Hey! Woo! I love it!
Thank you guys. Wow. Yeah, I just feel a lot of gratitude, and what a trip. What a trip this journey is.
Yes, you will.
Thank you,
What a
Eric.
trip. Oh, you're so welcome, Andrea.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, I believe that I'm going to be joining with Andy next week to just, show him how to set these Google Hangouts up, and he'll be connecting with all of you, sending out an email, and all of you who are watching as well, just to invite you to next week and to continue with him, and I may do some concerts. I have a retreat next weekend, but I think after that, Spirit will probably guide me to start doing some more online events, where I'll just be playing more music and sharing more about my journey. So I know I'll stay connected with all of you through those, and it's just been such a blessing to have these last several weeks doing these groups with all of you. So until we meet again, it's been beautiful.
Eric,
Yeah.
look, I know it's probably really late over there, but would you just have 1 minute? I just wanted to ask you something, like musical about your setup there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You wanted to ask me something about my setup here?
Yeah, about that, because I noticed, like, last time, the guitar was really choppy going in and out, and then you said you've got some sort of new studio thing,
Oh,
and
yeah.
now it's fabulous. What is
Yeah.
it?
There's just a setting on Google Hangouts where you can make it on studio mode, and it just yeah, it makes it sound better. It doesn't cut out the background sounds so that you can hear everything. And yeah.
How do you do that? Where is it?
Well, I'd have to join with you after to show you, but yeah, maybe after we hang up this call, if we can
Okay.
connect on that.
How do I do that? On Skype or? I'm not very technical.
Yeah. Well, I'll go ahead and end the broadcast and just and then we can talk about this afterward.
Okay. Yeah.
So, I love everyone, and thank you so much for joining us if you're watching the live broadcast.
I love you, Erik. Thank you so much.
Too, Serena.
Thank you, Erik. It's been wonderful. I'm sure we'll meet soon.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Oh, thank you, Erik.
Thank you.
Good night, all.
Night.
I look forward to